Good morning and welcome back to the Football Tribe YouTube channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back. It's a beautiful Saturday morning. Today we are awfully late. It's already a half past the hour of 10, almost beyond an hour when we should have been here. But anyways, sometimes it's unavoidable, but like I keep saying, it's better late than never. It's good to be here. And so we will be discussing once again more from the latest in the world of football, in the world of transfers, and things in that regard, because things continue to happen. Tottenham and Nottingham Forest wars continue. So we wait for updates on that front. But as you're just joining us, please like the broadcast and consider subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Before we get started with today's conversation, do let us know where you're joining us from, and let's engage in as far as football is concerned. But before we get started with today's conversation, I wish to send out some special shout outs to all those that managed to catch our broadcast last night. Thank you so much for being part of last night's broadcast. It was a pleasure to have you for that fruitful debate and engagement, which lasted for about almost an hour, something about 57 minutes there. So people like Kickboxing, Boss Royal, they are from the UK, and Naved Kazimi, people like Helen are from Eritrea, people like Semko, Alan Sesk, thank you so much. Fan troops too, thank you so much. Space Explorers, thank you so much for being a part of last night's broadcast. So it was a pleasure to have you, and it is a pleasure to be here once again this morning to discuss everything football from the world of transfers and possibly much more. So we'll be looking at that and a little more, because things are happening. Things are happening in more ways than we expected. We'll also be looking at the finals of the ongoing FIFA Club World Cup there in the United States of America, that will involve Chelsea and PSG. We'll discuss that in a bit. So please, if you're just joining us, consider liking the broadcast and also subscribing to the channel if you're new here, and help us on this path, on this journey of growth. So yes, do let me know where you're joining us from this morning. I hope I'm not missing any of your comments. Yes, our comments are turned on. So how are you guys doing? I'm coming to you live from Kampala, Uganda. In case you're wondering, Robert Kesakos is my name. So thank you for joining us this beautiful morning. Please do me one absolute favor. Click on the like button, but also subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Do let me know what team do you support. Are you a football fan? Are you a cricket fan? What sport do you pay allegiance to? Albeit this is a football channel where we do bring you updates from the Premier League and beyond as far as football is concerned. I can see we have 6 people, but there's only 4 likes on the broadcast. So please, do please like the broadcast. Where do we even start? Should we start with PSG? Should we start with Liverpool? Should we start with Tottenham? Okay, let's kick things off with Barcelona, because at Barcelona, they're in advanced talks with Frankie de Jong over renewing his contract, and they do want him to stay. Remember, I think it was about 2 or 3 seasons ago when he nearly left Barcelona, but they could not agree on a salary deduction and things of that nature. I think in the immediate aftermath of COVID-19, during that time, I remember, I think it was still Ronald Koeman that was still at the club before he left. And then eventually, I think when Xavi comes in for the first part, that was around the time they discussed those things and eventually stayed. He had been linked with the potential move to teams like Man United and all other suitors, but it never came to any fruition. Then Tottenham are not engaged in any form of negotiation with Atletico Madrid regarding Christian Romero, despite registering interest in the 27-year-old Argentine centre back. So let's wait and see. But like I keep saying, we still have a very long way to go in as far as this transfer window is concerned. So anything can happen, things can change during the course of the window. Then Alvaro Carreras to Real Madrid. That one is a here we go. It's a deal already in the pipeline. He can be considered a new Real Madrid player as of today because a medical is already booked and the player has been authorized to travel to Madrid to undergo his medical. Manchester United confirmed they won't be activating their buyback option, so the deal will now be sealed for 50 million euros from Benfica to Real Madrid. Yesterday, I was having a discussion with a Manchester United fan, Hargreaves, a disappointing side, and he was saying Man United should resign the player and possibly loan him to Real Madrid with an option to buy or an obligation to buy. So, anyways, looks like Man United are not exercising their option to buy back. Although some reports had suggested that that clause had been valid until only January, but from the look of things, I think it extended even until the summer. So that's the update on that front. So then quickly, Tottenham Hotspurs are looking to consulting with their lawyers over potentially taking legal action against Tottenham Hotspurs for what they believe was an illegal approach to their player in Morgan Gibbs-White. They are wondering how did Tottenham learn about Morgan Gibbs-White's £60 million release clause that is inserted in his contract because it is regarded as a confidential matter. Now, usually when there are release clauses in players' contracts, sometimes they are subject to NDAs and non-disclosure agreements because that's how clubs want to keep it between the two parties. And the two parties between the player and the club, or that the player's agency, do agree to that. And now it looks like it was sort of a closely guarded secret that it has a non-disclosure agreement on it. So Nottingham Forest are wondering how did Tottenham come to learn of that, release clause, so much so that they did not make a bid under or even over the release clause, but they came in with terms at the exact release clause. And apparently, Evangelos Marinakis, that's the owner of Nottingham Forest, is furious with his former sporting director, wondering how they even inserted a £60 million release clause in a contract of a player that they had acquired for almost £42 million with add-on included. So it looks like things are boiling over there, and the deal could be in jeopardy. However, some reports do indicate that the deal may proceed regardless of the legal action that Nottingham Forest could take against Tottenham. They've ceased communication between Nottingham Forest and Tottenham, and Nottingham Forest have informed the Premier League minders, that's the Premier League, formally notifying them of possibly what they consider to be an illegal approach of their player by Tottenham Hotspurs. And so let's wait and see. Things could change in the few coming days regarding that situation. So let's only wait and see if things will change or shift. Because there's not been so much new developments in regards to some of the ongoing topics when it comes to transfers, when it comes to people like Brian Mbeumo, Victor Gyökeres, and Noni Madueke. Ever since yesterday, we did learn he had been permitted to leave the Chelsea camp in the USA to travel back to the UK to undergo his medical ahead of completing the move to Arsenal. So much the anguish of Arsenal fans who do not agree that the club should be spending £52 million on a 23-year-old England international as a backup for Bukayo Saka because they view he is not priority as compared to the prioritization of the striker and the left winger. But again, those are merely opinions of the fans. Whether they hold any ounce of water in the eyes of the Arsenal management, or when you're a follower of online conversations and engagement and commentary and discussions around football, it's easy sometimes to conclude that, let's say, a fan base of a particular club is divided over a certain topic, or it's easy to conclude that, let's say, majority of fans of a particular club are not, in sync with what the club are trying to do. Yet sometimes it could be the contrary, because I don't know. At some point, I'm led to believe that majority of the fans online, that the number of fans online do not account for majority of funds for the club entirely, because you have very many fans that are online, that are not online, or even if they are not engaged in, everyday debates and commentary about their own clubs and things of that nature. Whatever their opinions are remains to be known, but at least that's what I'm led to believe. What's up, champ? Peter Parker, good morning to you. Good to have you on yet another broadcast. It's always a pleasure when you have some time to spare to join us. So basically, that's what's really going on. So quickly, in regards to the latest in transfer gossip and speculation, it involves Chelsea and their striker Nicolas Jackson. Apparently, and I do not want to believe this with any ounce of salt whatsoever, or I do not think it's worth the paper it's written on. Apparently, Chelsea have set £100 million asking price for Senegalese striker Nicolas Jackson, 24 amidst interest from AC Milan. Now, even if it were a Saudi Pro League club that has all the money at their disposal, even if they had £1 billion to spend in a transfer window, nobody is going to spend £100 million on Nicolas Jackson. I wouldn't want to believe so. Not in a million years. But unless it would be miraculous and unwise of any club financially to spend that amount of money. But that's according to the Mail. So that's why I say take it with it's not what the paper it's printed on. Then Manchester United and England forward Marcus Rashford is Barcelona's top left-wing target after the Spanish club failed with moves for Liverpool's Colombian forward Luis Diaz, 28 and 22-year-old Spaniard, and Nico Williams for Athletic Bilbao. That's according to Sky Sports. Barcelona rule out selling Marc Casado and Fermin Lopez this summer. I do not think the way you look at that Barcelona squad, there's not many players that I think they would want to ship out because it looks like the manager in Hans Flick is practically happy with his entire squad. In any case, he only wants to add onto it. And maybe where there could be movement is, let's say, with the goalkeeping situation, because Wojciech Szczesny did sign a new contract, a 2-year contract. They've signed Joan Garcia. Some reports have indicated that Barcelona have not yet registered him with La Liga and could possibly not register him until January because of their financial situation and things to do with wages. But let's wait and see. Maybe they could consider moving on Marc-Andre ter Stegen to create room or another player. We do know for a fact that they want to move on at least one defender, and Andres Christensen, the 29-year-old, is one being considered for possible movement because they have, I think, about 5 centre backs in their setup. The likes of Paul Kubasi. When you look at Eric Garcia, and players of that sort, so they could look to move on a figure out there. Fermin Lopez, I do not think he will be moving on. Same applies. Maybe Ferran Torres, I do not know with absolute certainty, but I think if a good offer came, Barcelona could be willing to listen to those offers. Apparently, Aston Villa have interest in Ferran Torres, the former Manchester City, forward. But let's wait and see. And even for Marcus Rashford, even if they were to sign him, I do not know how they make it work with the player registration. But also, reports do suggest that he would need to take a 40% discount on his wages. Now, taking a discount or a pay cut on his wages wouldn't be sort of new or that weird or impossible, but a 40%, that's significant. Just imagine if you are earning $1 million, to take a 40% that goes from $1 million to 600,000. So if he's earning about, let's say, 300,000 grand a week, 40% would be, let's see, how much would that be? If 30, if 60, if 90, 120 grand off to remain at about 160,000 a week. I mean, it doesn't really look very plausible, but anything can happen. I mean, it's a dream move for him, but given his age profile, 27 years of age, you wouldn't want to assume that it's too far-fetched. Anything can happen in the transfer window. So in regards to completing that move, but we will keep our eyes on Barcelona and see how far they can go in terms of their left wing pursuits. But so far, they've missed out on their top two targets in Luis Diaz as well as Nico Williams. Then Juventus apparently have agreed a 20 million euros fee. That's about 17.3 million pounds deal with Man United for England winger Jadon Sancho, who is negotiating a severance package with the Old Trafford club before any move. That's according to La Stampa in Italy. Again, take this with a pinch of salt, really. I take it with a pinch of salt. I'm not aware of an agreement between Juventus and Man United at this stage, at least from a more credible source, but we'll wait and see. Then Tottenham are still interested in their international, Yohan Wissa. That's despite not having contacted Brentford after being told that 28-year-old is valued at about 50 million pounds. That's according to the Standard in the UK. And now Nottingham Forest are also interested in the 28-year-old DRC Congo international. Apparently, Nottingham Forest had a bid rejected that was under 25 million pounds. They did try to sign the player in January, but those advances were rebuffed at the time. Then PSV and Hoven are ready to sell Belgian winger Johan Bakayoko, 22, with Everton, Nottingham Forest, and FC Bournemouth, as well as RB Leipzig and Bayer Leverkusen having made approaches. That's according to Fabrizio Romano. While Nottingham Forest are weighing up a bid worth 25 million pounds plus add-ons for England under 21 attacking midfielder James McAtee, but Manchester City value the 22-year-old at closer to 40 million pounds. Now, this is contrary to the reports we were receiving yesterday that the player is valued at about 20 to 25 million pounds. But again, like I keep saying, these things are often bound to come with all the speculation and gossip that does surround the transfer window. That's why I keep telling you guys, when you read certain reports, do take them with a pinch of salt until you hear it from more credible sources. That's why when we're bringing you some of this gossip and speculation, I do tell you that take that with, it's not what the paper it's printed on, take that with a grain of salt. That one doesn't hold water and things of that regard until more concrete resources give us the better information revolving some of these situations. Then Atalanta want to bid at least 50 million pounds or even want a bid at least close to 50 million pounds to even consider selling 21-year-old Italian centre-back Giorgio Scalvini, who is wanted by Newcastle and Manchester United. Yes, Newcastle are really interested in signing Giorgio Scalvini. Although he just did return from an ACL, didn't play really much last season, but he's a very interesting defender. There, Newcastle are really interested. Then Aston Villa are close to completing a deal for 34-year-old Dutch goalkeeper Marco Bizot from French side Brest. That's according to The Athletic. You can take that really as a good information. Then Arsenal remain interested in Real Madrid's Rodrigo Goes, despite being close to completing a deal for Donny Madueke. That's according to Gimme Sport. Yes, we do know about Arsenal's interest in Rodrigo Goes. It's one we've spoken about literally all summer. Then Colombian winger Daniel Munoz, 29, hopes to leave Crystal Palace this summer despite only signing a new contract in April. That's according to the Mirror. While Turkish side Fenerbahce are close to securing a deal to sign Spanish attacking midfielder Marco Asensio from Paris Saint-Germain. That's according to Football Italia. Yes, Fenerbahce are close to completing a deal to sign Marco Asensio from PSG. Remember, he spent the second part of last season away on loan to Aston Villa. So Mourinho looks to take him to Turkey, and the player is open to the move. So we will keep you abreast on those deals as well. But it's one of the situations to keep our eyes on. In the coming days, as it could be said to be completed. Then Yesterday, for those of you that were part of last evening's podcast, we did tell you about Jordan Henderson agreeing to a 2-year deal as a free agent to join Brentford, who are under the charges and now of a new manager in Keith Andrews, who was a set piece coach and has been elevated to the role of head coach as or slash manager in the work of the departure of Thomas Frank, who assists during Tottenham. And now, regarding the Marco Asensio deal, this was according to Fabrizio Romano, said Fenerbahce are closing in on Marco Asensio deal agreement at final stages with all parties involved. Asensio has accepted contract proposal and already said yes to Fenerbahce. So final green light needs to come from PSG. Then here we go. Will be coming soon, like really soon. So that's the situation regarding that front. Then okay. Then apparently Ekide in the Victor Gyökeres saga is on today. That's according to Ben Jacobs, who thinks that Ekide in Victor Gyökeres saga, Sporting have told Gyökeres he must return to training today, but the Swedish striker is expected to refuse, having made his position clear to the club. Sporting already informed Arsenal they want 70 million euros as fixed fee plus add-ons. We do know that Arsenal and Gyökeres have already agreed to a 5-year contract in principle on personal terms worth 200 grand a week. The player has already given up 2 million euros apparently as to try and support his move to try and support his move to Arsenal. And Arsenal have already made a bid of 70 million euros above that actually, but for them it's 65 million euros of guaranteed fees plus apparently 10 unexpected add-ons, although Sporting Lisbon are demanding for more than that. So there's a 5 million euro valuation and terms under that structure that is not really happening. So let's wait and see. We'll keep our eyes on that situation as well. Then quickly, let's now go to that FIFA Club World Cup final and look at the situation, because Chelsea are going to be up against the European champions in Paris Saint-Germain. That game will come at 10 p.m. East African time tomorrow night. So PSG are arguably the best team in the world in as far as club football is concerned. That is without a doubt very effective, but they come into the final without two of their players in William Pacho in defense. So expect Lucas Berardo to start in that center back, in that central defense, alongside the captain, 31-year-old Marquinhos. And then, of course, Lucas Hernandez will equally be absent. These ones received direct red cards or matching orders in their 2-0 victory against Bayern Munich at the quarterfinals. So they also missed the previous thrashing of Real Madrid in that 4-0 victory in the semi-finals. So those are the only changes we expect. So when it comes to their starting lineup, I expect Gianluigi Donnarumma in goal, Nuno Mendes, Achraf Hakimi, that's at left back and right back respectively, Marquinhos and Lucas Berardo. Then their midfield pack of Fabian Ruiz, Vitinha and João Neves, and then the attacking trio of Ousmane Dembele, Kivisa Kvaratskhelia and Desire Doué. Of course, on the bench, the likes of Goncalo Ramos, then the likes of Zai Emre, Warren Zai Emre, the likes of Mayuru, those kinds of players. Of course, Bradley Bacola, to be on the bench there to support PSG in their pursuit to be the first winners of the inaugural, FIFA Club World Cup, this new edition that involves 32 teams that will be played every once in 4 years, more like the World Cup itself. So a very strong PSG side against a very strong Chelsea side. Now, I was telling you guys that based on the tunnel that PSG have gone through to reach the finals, I think it has been a more difficult journey compared to that of Chelsea, because we are talking about Chelsea side that played Pyramides in the quarterfinals and beat them by 2-1. They played Fluminense in the semi-finals and beat them by 2-0. Of course, at the round of 16, they met with Benfica and beat them by 4-1 after extra time. While PSG on the other side beat up against Inter Miami, I think it was by 4-0 in the round of 16. Then they met Bayern Munich at the quarterfinals, beat them by 2-0 and beat Real Madrid by 4-0 in the semi-finals. Also at the group stages, in their first game, they beat up against Atletico Madrid by a similar scoreline, 4-0. Kangli Chan scored a penalty in that game to seal that victory. So Atletico Madrid, I think, received a red card in that game. So when you compare the opponents that they've met during the course of the tournament, obviously PSG have faced tougher opponents, and yet they've come out unscathed. They just do not concede so many goals. In this particular tournament, they did lose a game, although they lost to Botafogo by 1-0 during match day 2 while we were still at the group stages. That's for PSG. Chelsea on the other side, very, very beautiful side, very decent side. Enzo Maresca has been rotating the squad, whether it's in centre back, whether it's in midfield. At one time, we saw a centre back pairing of Trevor Chalobah and Levi Colwill. Another day, it was Trevor Chalobah and Tosin Aderabio. Then sometimes Richard James started at right back. On another time, it was Malo Gusto starting. Then Marco Cucurella is a mainstay in that left back. The goalkeeper Robert Sanchez has been a mainstay. Moises Caicedo, I think, did not start. I think, was it the semi-final, quarter-final? But Enzo Fernandez, at one time, it was Moises Caicedo alongside Lomo Lavia, and then Enzo Fernandez ahead of them. But the last game, it was Moises Caicedo alongside Enzo Fernandez with Cole Palmer ahead of them, with Pedro Neto and João Pedro starting in front alongside Christopher Nkunku. So, but whichever the pick may be, so I do expect, personally, I think against PSG, I would expect a team like Levi Colwill. I would expect Tosin Aderabio to start in centre back, Marco Cucurella and Malo Gusto, and then Robert Sanchez, of course, in goal. I would expect a double pivot, I think, of Moises Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez, Cole Palmer, Pedro Neto, Christopher Nkunku, and João Pedro to start in that setup. But I mean, anything can happen really in terms of expected lineups. Anything can happen. So in terms of those changes, so then it's not really cast in stone. That's only my probable lineup. So then, of course, we know Luis Enrique is more poised for these kinds of occasions. We are talking about a Chelsea team that won the UEFA Conference League as they beat up against Real Betis in the final by 4-1. We're talking about a PSG side that won the UEFA Champions League, beating Inter Milan by 5-0. So really, these are two strong teams. In terms of recent history, they've met at about 6 times in the UEFA Champions League, and Chelsea have beaten PSG only once. They beat them in 2014 by 2-0 at the Stamford Bridge, while in that same year, PSG beat up against Chelsea by 3-1 at Parc de France. And then in 2015, they also met, I think this was at the knockout stages. I think, yes, it must have been at the knockout stages somewhere. Was it the round of 16? I do not remember properly, but the first leg ended, that was at Parc de France, ended in a 1-1 draw, and then in this return leg ended in a 2-2 draw, and I think that's when PSG advanced on our goals full. That was after extra time. Then in 2016, the two sides met and PSG beat up against Chelsea by 2-1 at Parc de France, while in the subsequent fixture at the Stamford Bridge, they also won that game by a similar scoreline. So you can see that PSG have been quite dominant. They've been 2 draws in the 6 meetings. PSG have won 3 of those occasions, while Chelsea have only 1. So in terms of head-to-head, you can see that PSG overall is the much better side. However, I do not want to discount Chelsea because Enzo Maresca can be a very good tactician. I just hope he doesn't overthink this game. But in the end, overall, I believe that PSG are a little bit too hot to handle. at the moment or at this stage in their, their development. And the worrying thing about this PSG side is we are talking about a tactically astute manager in Luis Enrique. We are talking about a very young side because when you look at their goalkeeper, Gianluigi Donnarumma. He's only 26 years of age. Albeit, I think he only has 1 year left in his current contract, but I think that contract will be renewed. When you look at defenders like William Pacho, he's 23 years of age. They are interested in signing Ilya Zabani from AFC Bournemouth. That's the Ukrainian defender. He's only 22. Marquinhos is a senior player, 31. Ousmane Dembele is 28, I think coming to 29 with the experience. Vitinha is about 25. Nuno Mendes is 20. Fabian Ruiz is 29, I think. When you look at Nuno Mendes, 23. Look at Achraf Hakimi, I think he's 26. So Bradley Bacola, 22. Desli Doe, 19. Kivisha Kvaratskhelia is 24. So this is a very young side that would still go on to dominate European football for the next 3 years. Who knows? It wouldn't, although we've not seen a team in UEFA Champions League history when the competition was rebranded. I think that was 92. Seen a team, win the title, being first-time winners like PSG, and then defend it. But Real Madrid have done it when they went to win it, 3 times in a row between 2016, 2017, and 2018 when they won it for those 3 consecutive times. So let's wait and see. Can PSG be the first team to be inaugural winners to go back and defend the title? Because when Chelsea won it in 2012, we won it again in 2021, almost a decade later. So you can see Man City won it in 2023 and they've not yet won it back again. That was the first time they were winning it. Let's just wait and see. But I believe PSG will be a little bit too strong for Chelsea at the end of the day, and I do suspect that PSG could win that game by 3-1. That's my prediction. Maybe it could change, subject to changes in starting 11s. You never know what late fitness tests or injury news could be coming out of those clubs that could shift the odds in one side, in one's favor or the other. Otherwise, that's it for me for now. Because we did come for this one late, allow me leave it here and wish you a wonderful rest of the weekend. Of course, we'll be back to engage in more news and other and more discussions and analysis on different issues. Otherwise, have yourselves a wonderful rest of the weekend and a blessed weekend. So I'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.